We're go.
And we're rolling. Perfect. Okay, first step is to take off the windscreen. Obviously it's pretty simple, there's just the 4 bolts, which you need the Allen key for. Just get them out of the way. It's usually helpful to take off this back plastic cover as well. It's not actually held on by anything, so chuck it on top. Next step is removing these plastic inserts. There's 2 Phillips screws on each one, so you just unscrew them and then they pop straight out. Next up, you'll need a little screwdriver for a little screw just down under in there, and that'll free up the bottom of the headlight.
There you go.
Okay, next up is removing the big bolt from inside this cover. So you just take it out. You've got to take out the screw here, the top, and down below in here there's a little black screw here. It's useful to help to refer back to the video when putting the bike back together as to which screw goes where. I have a habit of getting additional screws after taking things apart sometimes. Now, behind here are 2 larger screws just above the rubber seat cover. These will also need removing. There. Now this is a tricky bit. You'll need a very long screwdriver, but there's a Phillips screw way in the back at the back. In fact, a little bit of light doesn't go astray. It doesn't show so well on the video, but if you look in through there, past the charger, with a torch on it, it'll show up like, it'll be very obvious. I'm going to do that. Now the screw may fall down in under. Don't worry about it, you can retrieve it later. This should free up most of this. And allow you to remove the headlight. Now, behind the headlight is a connector that connects directly to the H4 bulb. You've got to undo that before you go any further. You don't want to put too much stress on the wires. There's a second connector down below. Has a latch on it, we're going to undo that as well. Alright, and the headlight's free. Just for interest's sake, if you ever want to replace the bulb, you just do it from the back. You just take that off somehow. I think. No, I don't have time for that anyway. Alrighty. Now you can see where the charger is in there. Once you got it free, make sure you don't yank it too hard. It's actually held down by a couple of cable ties down there. So unplug the indicator connector, leave it free, and then gently lower that down. Alrighty. Now, that gives us access to the charger. That one, that one. Now, with the charger, it's helpful to undo the connectors before undoing any of the bolts. So you've got the 2 connectors down here. You've got to flick take the... these will be very stiff, but there's a latch there you've got to flip up before you can move it down. Same as the other one on the bottom. Oh, that was just a door. Alright, once those are loose, put them down below. Now there's another connector up here. It's got a very funky purple end on it. You've got to pull the purple end up, and then it'll free up the connector to move back. It works better in one motion, so as you're pulling it up, push it back, and it will slide off. Okay, so now it's free of wires. Most of the bolts in this bike are 10mm, including the ones on the charger. So you just undo them. For point of reference, you'll notice there's a spacer on two of the bolts. The two spacers belong on the bottom two bolts. When you come time to put them back together, it can be quite confusing as to what goes where. Hopefully this saves you some time. Oh, thank you. This may not take as long as I previously thought. It's because I've nerfed the second time through, not the first. And then you got a socket set. I could just use a longer extension. I just don't have one. Yeah. Thank you. So what's the project? Oh.
Socket sets. How much length do you know?
Not a lot of length.
Quarter socket or larger one?
Ooh. When you're pulling the bolt out, make sure the spacer, you don't lose the spacer, like I just did.
It's behind the wheel.
If you do lose it, fish it back out again. And now's a good time when you're fishing out the spacer to grab the bolt that fell down earlier. It's the one that's sat at the back there. Oh, thank you. Yeah, same size. Perfect. Alrighty. Now I've done something else wrong here. I should have left the top bolt in, because otherwise when you undo the last one, it will want to slide back down and it becomes a little bit unstable. Where you leave this top one in, it's a lot easier to handle around. Perfect. Better. Interesting. The other thing to take note of is the bolts for the back two bolts are actually shorter than the front two, so you need to keep them separate. Or at least remember it when comes time to put the charger back in. There goes the other spacer. Yeah. Alright, once you got the last charge bolt out, you might want to fall out, so grab onto it. I've already taken it out, so the panel's already fallen off, but this side panel is held on by a couple of cable ties. Get that in the shot. And it comes off the bottom left-hand bolt on the charger, so as soon as you got that free, it just falls. And you've got the charger free. Oh, now there's a good idea. Alright, so you put the whole charger aside somewhere.